Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, written by Steve Perry. This book, this book is an essential part of Star Wars Legends, Star Wars Expanded Universe. And it was a big project. It was a huge multimedia project by Lucasfilm. So this was published in 1996. So during that time, we had no new stories or no new movies in the horizon at all. This is way before the prequels, way before the official announcement of the prequels. And at that time, George Lucas wanted to re-release the movies, the original trilogy, out in theaters. And they were released as special editions with added footage, new special effects out in theaters. And that was a big deal because we were able to see Star Wars once again on the big screen. And that was a big deal. So to hype up the fans again, Lucasfilm wanted to create a multimedia project, which they did with Shadows of the Empire. And not only did they want to release a novel, they wanted, like I said, for it to be a multimedia project. Action figures, junior novel, Topps trading cards, an N64 video game, a soundtrack, action figures, so many other things I'm trying to, Dark Horse Comics. So apart from the novel, Kenner released these action figures. This is Dash Rendar. This is a great, important character from the novel. Apart from Dash Rendar, we had other figures in this packaging with Prince Shizor, which is the one of the villains, new added villain from that story, great villain. We had Princess Leia in her disguise, her bush outfit. Chewbacca and his Snuva bounty hunter disguise. We had Dash Rendar's ship called the Outrider. And great line from Kenner for sure. They did a great job. Apart from the action figures, we got Star Wars from Dark Horse Comics. This is a trade paperback. The originals came out in a 6-issue series, I believe. And I always loved the artwork from Shadows of the Empire. I think they did a great job with this. This was just an adaptation of the novel with added scenes as well. They did a great job with that. Like I said, Topps trading cards. In addition to that, like I said, they wanted to go big. The N64 game, I feel, became actually even bigger than the novel. We play as Dash Rendar, and that game was big. I have so many memories talking about that game and being stuck in certain levels. I remember there was a Boba Fett boss battle that I just could not pass. It took me weeks to pass and had help from a friend. Great memories. I remember the soundtrack as well, playing that game. And yeah, that game was huge. It's a classic. In addition to the video game, which was massive, Star Wars or Lucasfilm also reached out to a composer by Joel, his name is Joel McNeely, and they wanted to create original piece of music, an original score as a companion to the novel. Like I said, they went big. So they got the Scottish National Orchestra, conducted by Joe McNeely, and we have this soundtrack, this great piece of music. I love Star Wars music. This doesn't disappoint. I had the CD, and then got this record a couple of years ago. Like I said, they even had an original score, and it's a great piece of music that, you know, when you read the book after listening to the soundtrack, you hear that music, you feel it. So this multimedia project is a very important part of Star Wars history, important part of Legends. I even had to get the novel with the Legends banner. I proudly display it as Legends. It's an important piece of Legends history and storyline in the timeline. And the gist of this story, if you haven't read it, is the rescue or planning the rescue of Han Solo from Boba Fett. And a lot of details. There's a new villain, there's new characters, but that's pretty much the gist of it. There's a lot more that goes on in this book. I've read this book so many times, and like I said, it's one of my favorites. It's very special to me. It's one of my first expanded universe books. And quick note, in addition, the way I discovered Star Wars EU was through the actual sequel to this book, which was called, to comic called Star Wars: The Shadows of the Empire Evolution. And I discovered EU with issue number 1, and the artwork just popped. The cover popped to me, and that's when I started asking questions, and then the rabbit hole and Pandora's box, all that happened. So thanks to the sequel, I discovered EU from that point. And this book is, I don't know, it flows well. Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. After reading this book now, it flows well. You see how Luke Skywalker got the lightsaber. All of a sudden it's green. We know how now. We know how Chewie, Princess Leia, Lando, Luke, how they planned Han Solo's rescue, which we see in Return of the Jedi. So now, this Return of the Jedi is a direct outcome of this novel, of this book, of this story. And that's how important it is. And I'll always value this book. I'll always value the effort from Lucasfilm. I think they did a great job. It's very special to me. And like I said, it's one of my, maybe not my absolute favorite, but definitely top 5, maybe for nostalgia too, because it was a time when I first discovered, I read this book a year after it was published, after it was released. So in 1997, a year later after it being published, I had discovered EU, and I discovered the comics and the Bantam era, some of the Bantam era books that were released up to that point, and my mind was blown from different directions. And then after reading this, it was just, I remember putting this book down and just having that feeling when you read a book, just being completely, wow, satisfied with the story and just feeling fulfilled. Because Empire Strikes, well, the original trilogy, the prequels as well, but going back before the prequels, those movies, like to you guys as well, they're very important movies, and watch them as growing up, and seeing a story that enhances, just like what the EU does, what Star Wars Legend does, it enhances in so many different ways, enhances the movies. I felt that. I thought, wow, this enhances the story of the original trilogy, and just, I don't know, it was unexpected, and I was happy, and I'm glad that I read it, and glad that that they created this for us. So I think they really outdid themselves. They did a great job, and I'm happy that they did.